Welcome to the Academic Woman Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak, tenured full professor, mom of three, and firm believer that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. In the past few years, as I've been developing my writing coaching business, I started to think about what sets me apart from other writing coaches. And also, as I create content for this podcast, for my I Should Be Writing Facebook group, and for my paid programs, I often think about what makes me different. What do I say all the time? And I had a little light bulb moment, and I realized that sometimes it's what you don't say. So today's episode is about 5 words I avoid using when talking about writing. Let's get started with number 1. The first word that I avoid when talking about writing is the word bootcamp. There are so many negative connotations around the word bootcamp. It has this military connotation to it, right? And it's not a positive military connotation. It's really kind of reminds you of excessive stress, right? Pressure to perform, lots of things done in short amounts of time, baptism by fire. And all of those things are things that I try to help people actually avoid when they think about their academic writing practice. Bootcamp also kind of emphasizes this physical endurance, right? And although I do think, obviously, endurance can be a positive kind of word, it emphasizes struggle. I think that in academia, in the culture of academia, we spend way too much time glorifying struggle, glorifying busy, glorifying overwork. And that's why I avoid using the word bootcamp at all costs. There are few things that you can say inside of my I Should Be Writing Facebook group that will make me call you out. And calling any of my programs a bootcamp is one of those things. Instead, I prefer to use the word retreat. Okay, so for each of these words that I avoid, I'm going to give you the word that I use instead. So instead of calling an intensive push towards writing more a boot camp, I want to call it a retreat. Why do I want to use the word retreat? Well, of course, the word retreat implies gentleness. It implies blocking yourself off a little bit from that culture of busy and culture of overwork and that feeling of being pulled in 1,000 directions. A retreat separates us from that. And that kind of feeling that you might get on a writing retreat is actually the feeling that I want to help you cultivate inside of your academic writing practice. So is a retreat intensive? Yes, it absolutely is. The word retreat implies kind of that you're going to go away and think deeply about something or work deeply on something, right? A yoga retreat is a concentrated time to do yoga. A writing retreat is a concentrated time to do writing. But the word retreat is the polar opposite of boot camp, right? Retreat kind of brings up feelings of calm, of tranquility, of isolation in a good way, the kind of isolation that we need that lets our brain kind of blossom with new ideas. So my first word of the 5 that I'm going to talk about today that I avoid is boot camp, and the word that I use instead is retreat. The second word that I avoid when I'm talking about writing and writing practices is balance. Now, this word has been really hard for me to let go of, and you'll hear me in my videos and even probably in this podcast say the word balance and then self-correct. Here's the problem with the word balance and why I avoid using it. Balance implies that two things are equal, right? If you picture a balance in your head, it has an arm and two equally weighted things on either side. Now, there's quite a few problems with the image that balance brings up. One is that we are never just dealing with two things. Sometimes people use the word balance to talk about work life and home life. But one thing is that I don't love that separation. I feel like it emphasizes us being a different person at work than we are at home. And we are one whole person. And I want you all to remember that you are a whole person. And so that when home things affect your work life, it is not something going out of balance. It is you living on earth as a human being, a complete human being that has many aspects of her life to her. So one thing about balance that I don't like is it implies two things when really it's like so not holistic. Like you don't see the whole person or the many things that one is quote unquote trying to balance when people use the word balance. Okay. So the other thing is that I don't like the word balance because it implies that everything is going to stay the same. Like once people are in balance, then work is taking up the same amount of time as home, or X thing on the side of the balance is taking up the same amount of time or energy as Y thing. And that's just not realistic. There are some moments in the semester when work feels all encompassing and maybe should be. Like maybe it should, like right before you go to make a big presentation or as you are like ramping up to submit your NSF career grant, it makes sense to me that you are putting more time and energy into work. Now, I don't want people to be working 12-hour days to get those things done, even though I know many of you do. But I do think it makes sense to kind of be with your head in that space of like whatever that big project you're working on is a little bit more than other times. Then in other moments when, for example, you're getting ready, like I was getting ready for my son's 10th birthday party, and we decided to rent a house, a beach house, and have our family come from all over Puerto Rico and stay together so he could really have a lovely time with his cousins. And that took up a lot of time and energy. So again, like I don't think that that's bad. So like if I ignored some work things in order to plan this birthday party for my son, that's fine because that's my life. That's all of me. That's me being human. Similarly, when we are derailed by something, and this happens when we have a death in the family, an illness of someone we're taking care of, our own illness, or any one of the many, many things that could pull our attention from what we were intending to do. If we feel out of balance, like obviously you're out of balance. Something big is happening in an arena of your life, and it almost like deserves to pull your attention. So I think that the idea of balance is not the best concept or not the best metaphor to use when we're talking about our academic lives and our lives in general. Instead, the word that I am always trying to use is management. So it makes sense to me to manage different things. We manage different aspects of our lives. And in that management, it doesn't mean that always work is more important than home or that writing is more important than grading. That's not management. Management is you take into consideration the context and your whole self and all the things you need to do. You take that into consideration and you make decisions grounded in your values. Okay. You value your writing, you value your career. you're going to make decisions about what you do and how you spend most of your time based on, right, your internal values, the things that you want to do in the world and the things that you value in your life. And so management seems like a much more logical concept to me than balance. So the second word that I try to avoid when I'm talking about writing is balance. And instead, I like to use the word management. Okay, we are at word number 3, and word number 3 is accountability. Now, this one's hard for me not to use because so many of you use it. When people are talking about their writing, they often talk about wanting accountability. So here's the thing. My problem with the word accountability is that it implies that you have some personal defect that stops you from committing to things or acting in your best interest, and that you need some outside force to be imposing accountability on you in order for you to make the best decisions for yourself. And I think that word accountability, like when people say, like, I just need accountability around my writing, what it does is kind of disempowers you. I think that you have the power to create your own accountability. And I want to just not even use that word. So to create your own systems that operate in line with your goals. Okay. So if your goal is to write a book, you don't need somebody outside keeping you accountable. You need to look inside and figure out the ways that you can make that goal come true for yourself, the ways that you are self-sabotaging or double thinking so that when it's time for you to sit down and write, but then you choose to do something else, that is almost like a lack of self-confidence in what you're doing. So instead of needing outside accountability, what you need is inner reflection and realignment and a mindset shift. So I feel like that accountability thing kind of is very disempowering. The thing that I think people actually need when they say they need accountability is community. And we have seen this inside my Amplify program. We have seen people come into the program saying, like, I'm going to do this because I need accountability around my writing. And when they get into the program, which is very, very community focused and has a lot of peer mentoring built into the program, they realize that they don't need accountability. They needed this community, that the problems that they had around getting their writing done are solved by having a community of people who share their values around academia, who reject a lot of the culture of academia that tells us that we're supposed to be writing at nights or on the weekends, or that writing is the most important thing, yet also peripheral, like that you're supposed to do it at some time that isn't during your normal working hours, which is ridiculous. And, that you just have people who really get where you're coming from and the work that you're trying to do. That's what people need. That solves the accountability problem. Community solves the accountability problem. So absolutely, if you're a person who loves like an accountability tracker and that kind of stuff, do that. And I advocate a sticker system so that you can have that like positive, I put a sticker on my chart today that says I got my writing done. But really what will build that deep connection to your practice and what will help you to write and publish more is having a community around you. So word number 3 is accountability. And instead, what we are really looking for is community. All right. Word number 4 that I avoid when I'm talking about writing is productivity. Now, some of you might be like, what? But I see you as a productivity coach. Well, thank you. I'll take it as a compliment. But you'll notice that nowhere or hardly anywhere in any of the things that I write or say do I talk about productivity. And here's the reason why. The word productivity to me sounds like we are robots in a factory on an assembly line producing products. And so it seems so kind of lockstep. It seems like we are machines. And if we just oiled ourselves in a certain way, we would produce more. And I think that although, what I'm trying to help you do in this podcast and in my programs is actually to help you produce more, right? To write and publish more. The word productivity just has this connotation of lockstep sameness. And you aren't the same. And teaching you tips and tricks to be more productive is absolutely not what I'm about. Instead, what I'm trying to teach you to do are to believe in yourself, to take control and feel the power that you have in driving your career forward, to implement systems in order to stop wheel spinning and to keep your production of writing on track. I'm trying to teach you techniques for self-awareness and reflection that are going to help you to write and publish more. But I'm not trying to teach you 5-minute hacks or anything like that. And to me, the word productivity has that kind of some of that built into it. We're not trying to beat the system. We are trying to create a better relationship between ourselves and our writing, and really ourselves and our careers. So instead of the word productivity, I like to use the word creation. So we are not just trying to produce more. Writing is an act of creation. And so as we try to create more, right? Write more, publish more. As we try to create more, we need to change the way that we approach rest. So the more creation that we do, the more rest we need to have. We need to alter our belief, our scarcity mindset around writing so that we understand that you'll actually create more if you have fewer projects on your plate, if you're focusing on fewer things. In fact, having one area of your field, really your academic brand, right? One clear brand will help you create more. The less you have going on, the clearer your focus, the better your creation will be. And I think that the word creation is a much more positive and self-affirming and powerful word than production, right? So instead of productivity, I like to use the word creation or creativity even. But really what I want to do is get away from that. We're going to increase your writing productivity by making you do these cookie cutter things. And I want instead to think about how can you reflect so that you can create more? How can you focus so that you can create more? How can you let yourself create more? Because you have it in you to do. You're just getting distracted and pulled within this culture of academia that is built to distract and pull you away from the creation that you really are meant to do. So word number 4 is productivity, and we are replacing it with creation. Finally, word number 5 is a little bit of a cheat word because I do use it, but I'm going to explain. And what I really want to do is contrast word number 5 with the replacement word or the preferred word. So the word number 5 is self-care. So I actually do use the word self-care when I talk about writing and writing practice. And you can see on my blog, I have a blog that's called Writing as Self-Care. But what I want to say here is there's a difference between self-care, the way it gets sold to us. And some people call this take a bath and light a candle is self-care, right? And certainly that can be part of self-care. But the word that I want to contrast with self-care is self-maintenance and almost self-preservation. So the thing that I don't like about the word self-care is that it seems optional. It has been dramatically feminized not in the powerful way that things get feminized, but as like, oh yeah, that's a thing that women need to do every once in a while, right? Like go on a self-care weekend and get a massage. No, what we need to really talk about are techniques of self-maintenance that are way deeper than that commercialized self-care stuff. Okay. So we are going to both take back the word self-care, but also emphasize the self-maintenance part of the word self-care. So let me explain what I mean by that. In our patriarchal culture, taking care of yourself as a woman is kind of seen as optional. You're supposed to be taking care of everybody else. And the way that that translates into your academic writing, or it can translate into your academic writing and your academic practices, is that women take care of the department business. They take care of the student advising. They take care of the people around them in their departments and in their academic environments. And we know this to be true because we know from studies that women take on much more of the service work, right, in their departments. So we translate this idea, this cultural idea that women are supposed to be self-sacrificing. We translate that in these really insidious ways into the culture of academia. And so when we say, no, I'm going to respect and honor my tiger time, and I am writing for 2 hours on Wednesday morning, and I cannot go to your meeting, we are seen as not team players or somehow us maintaining our careers or caring for our careers by writing. Somehow that looks selfish to the patriarchal culture. So I want to break through that and say, no way is it selfish. What it is self-maintenance. If you don't take time to write, you will get fired. If we're thinking about that tenure track, pre-tenure time at a university where publications count a lot for tenure, you're just going to get fired if you don't take time to write. So that is self-maintenance. It is maintaining yourself. To write is to maintain oneself as a professor. Additionally, kind of on a little bit of a tangent there, very close to the central place that writing has in self-maintenance, is if you want to be a writer and you want to do writing and actually do you want to do academia well, you need to maintain your body. You need to be able to sit for many hours. And that actually takes exercise. It's counterintuitive, but it does. You need to nourish yourself so that you can think with the most energy and focus as you can muster. And that takes we could say self-care, right? Exercise and diet being on point or being positive or good for you. But let's just call it what it is. It's self-maintenance. It's maintenance of the body. You have to do things or your back will go out. And the reason that I say this is because my back has gone out. And so, I'm not saying that everyone needs to, lift weights or whatever. But what I am saying is that you need to incorporate movement into your daily life so that you can do the sitting. And in other podcasts, I've talked about using walking as a way to kind of stimulate ideas. I'm not talking about running marathons, although if you want to run a marathon, do it. But what I'm really talking about is there are baseline amounts of activities that we need to do for ourselves to maintain ourselves as professors, to maintain ourselves as academics and scholars. And writing certainly has to do with that, but there are also other self-maintenance things we need to do, like movement and eating and hydration, that are going to keep us feeling good so that we can continue to do the very important work that each of us is doing. So my last word, I don't quite avoid using the word self-care when I talk about writing, but I do want to emphasize the self-maintenance part of self-care. All right. Well, that wraps up this episode about 5 words that I try to avoid when I'm talking about writing. I want to let you know that in 2020, we have 3 ways that you can work with us. One way is the Academic Women's Writing Roadmap course, which is going to be open for enrollment in May. So get out your calendar and mark on May 1st that the roadmap enrollment is opening soon so that you're sure you don't miss it. That is my course for all academic women, late stage PhD, all the way through full professor, anyone who is looking to get their pipeline flowing, maybe for the first time, maybe again, and to prioritize projects and put writing at the center. We open it just in time for summer so it can really transform your summer writing. So make sure that you have that on your calendar. The other 2 ways that you can work with us in 2020 are open for enrollment right now. One way is through our Amplify program. Amplify is a year-long faculty writing accelerator for academic women who want to make the pre-tenure prep process feel more like inspiration and less like hazing. We are looking to support you in many ways for a whole year so that you go up for tenure with confidence. The 3 main ways that we deliver the program are through training, community, and coaching. And if you'd like to find out more, we encourage you to apply for our program by using the link in the show notes to fill out a quick application form and schedule a 10-minute call with one of our writing coaches. The other program I'm very excited to announce is Elevate. Elevate is a 6-month-long coaching program for post-tenure women who are looking to up-level their careers. I've talked to probably 50 post-tenure women in the past 4 weeks and identified many of the same problems. And here's the kind of person that Elevate is for. Elevate is for the post-tenure woman who has gotten to the other side of tenure and said, is this all there is? It's for the woman who is thinking about what her next move is going to be. Is it going to be a move towards full professor? Is it going to be a move into admin? Is it going to be leaving her institution because she feels like she knows that this place is not the place for her and it's not letting her do what she really wants to do? In Elevate, what we help you do is identify what that next level is for you. Maybe it's starting a research center. Maybe it's bringing in really big grant money so that you are supported in your line of research. So many things could be what we're just using the metaphor of next level for. So if you are ready to next level your academic career and your post-tenure, consider applying for Elevate. We have only a few spaces left. It's a program for 10 women only. We're running a 10-person cohort this first time, and we've already filled spaces. So if you haven't applied, it's time to apply now. It's a 6-month program and we start February 1st. So right now is the time that you should be applying. Use the link in the show notes to fill out a short application form, have a 10-minute call with our coaches. And if you are a good fit for the program, then they will pass you on to a strategy session with me, and I will give you all the details and make sure that Elevate is the program that you need in 2020. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time loving on yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you'd like to continue the conversation, join the over 7,000 academic women in the I Should Be Writing Facebook group. Just go to facebook.com/groups/I Should Be Writing or search for I Should Be Writing inside your Facebook app. See you inside.